Hello, welcome to I Feel Fat Today. I'm your host, Kelly Taylor. It is late and I am tired, but I am getting this done now so I don't hate myself tomorrow. Because that's what we're trying to do these days. I also did not check how my framing is before I started recording. So hopefully it looks good because I'm not changing it because we're rolling. We're doing it live. I did not mean to curse in the first second of recording. I'll get that. Okay. Like I said, welcome to the podcast. Pleasure to be here. Happy to be here. What do we got going on? So the last night I watched the season premiere of Vanderpump Rules, season 11, and I loved it. I thought it was beautifully done. I think we are really in for a good season. The one thing I want to say, the reason why I'm bringing it up on the podcast is because I get that, and you may be listening to this having no idea what I'm talking about if you live under a rock, but I get that it's been nearly a year since Scandival broke, and so we're all just kind of over this whole this is a reality television show and two of the cast members were in a relationship or someone stepped out of the relationship with a different cast member, Scandival essentially. And even fans of the show are a little bit over it. I'm not. I'm saying sign me up, but there's not much to live for. I will take every new kernel of information. I do. I love it. Here's the thing. Everybody was so overwhelmingly team Ariana, obviously, because she was a woman scorned. She was cheated on by her longtime partner, and what a mess. Ugh. We love to stick up for a bitch, right? Now the new season has premiered, season 11, and the same people that were defenders of Ariana are on the internet now, and they're all women that I'm seeing. Of course, I'm seeing some men, but mostly overwhelmingly women are posting about how they're over Ariana and how they're so sick of her and she's so smug. And Ariana even said a few weeks ago, I think when the season comes out, people are going to turn on me. And she was right, because that's exactly what people are doing. Everyone's like, it's been a year, get over it. And it's just people that have that take, I'm like, are you dumb? Okay, you do realize that you are watching a show that is not filmed in real time. It's not like last week she was talking about how she, is navigating living with Tom Sandoval following the scandal. And, now they're showing us that same footage from a week ago. No. They started recording the next season, season 11, 3 months after the affair broke. So, it's just so annoying. And I'm just like, oh God, this is not women supporting women. This is uncomfortable, I would say. Especially because it's such a benign thing. I understand, you don't have to be all women supporting women 100% of the time. There are political disagreements. There's ideological disagreements you can have with another woman that would make you support her. But this is such a benign concept. Cis white male cheats on, betrays, breaks the trust entirely of cute little white woman. It's I don't know. It's just so and the other player at here that wrecked this havoc is another whole cute little white woman. So it's just I don't know. It's just on the smallest level, on the simplest level, we can't just get down with championing a woman who's navigating dealing with an asshole. It's Tom Sandoval wasn't even on the episode and he's getting some mild support from it. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading far too into it, but that really perturbed me, which is why I felt the need to bring it up. I'm not going to talk about Vanderpump Rules, especially not in the intro of podcast to come, unless there's something societally that I want to bring up, because I totally have had the idea of going through past seasons, especially some of the earlier ones, and the way they talk about weight and bodies is interesting and very much, I think, of the time. Katie now is she's always been gorgeous, but Katie Maloney has never looked better. But so many aspects of her being on the show were people talking about her weight when she was just a little bit chunkier post getting married. I don't know. The show's layered. It's a very good show, Vanderpump Rules. Anyways, I digress. We're going to keep going because I want to get to the episode. We have a great guest this week. As always, head over to our YouTube, I Feel Fat Today podcast over on YouTube, and subscribe. It's so important if you're watching this and like you're enjoying the ramblings of me, and you enjoy talking about diet culture and history of ED and lamenting about dieting and just having a grand old time, either loving yourself or hating yourself. Watch I Feel Fat Today. You can subscribe to our podcast on YouTube. We have full video episodes there each and every week for the most part. Well, we're out every week, but you know, like last week I was sick, which I'm not sick anymore, but last week I was sick. So we did a little audio, 30 minutes, don't hurt nobody. I'm feeling much better, by the way. Thank you for asking. Okay, after that, you're going to head over to Apple Podcasts, where you will follow us there on Apple Podcasts and give us a 5-star rating and review. If you leave me a 5-star review, I will post it on Instagram, but I'll blur your name. I don't need to be calling anybody out. If you want advice, you can send us an email. Sometimes we have listeners write in with their different problems. We've tackled some things of like talking about, feeling weird in your body when you're going home because your family's mean, or you're feeling weird in your body because you are, going to be a bridesmaid and you think you're going to ruin the wedding because you look disgusting in the dress. Write me, tell me about it, and we'll talk about it on the podcast, and I'll try to give you some advice. To do that, you can send us an email at ifeelfattoday@gmail.com. And as always, follow us on social media. You can follow the podcast, I Feel Fat Today, at I Feel Fat Today on Instagram. And me, your host, Kelly Taylor, at Hello, This is Kelly on Instagram. Okay. Whew. Getting into it. So what I want to talk about today before we get into it with my guest, it's a great guest, great conversation. I came across something on TikTok this week and thought, I'm having a little deja vu moment. And then I came across this article from Bloomberg that exactly reflected the sentiment. And what I am talking about is the concept of legging legs. Now, legging legs is, just to give you some backstory before I get into the article, legging legs is basically something that lived for all of 4 days on TikTok. Truly, it was shut down so quick because Gen Z does not play that shit. But legging legs, this concept is you have to have a certain kind of leg to wear leggings, the spandex pants. And to a degree, I definitely remember growing up and thinking like, should I be wearing these pants? Because plenty of people talked about how like, some women in leggings don't look good. I never cared. It's still the only pant I really wear is leggings. They're the best. Lots of support. But there was never a term for it. There was never, like jiggly ass or the classic, totally not creative one of like 10 pounds of sausage in a 5-pound bag sort of thing. That's how leggings were sort of referred if you had a bigger body and you were wearing these spandex leggings. But on the internet this week on TikTok, the term that tried to emerge was legging legs, and it's this concept that you have to have certain kind of legs to fit into these pants. And Gen Z said, not today. And it reminded me very much of the elusive thigh gap, which did not have a short lifespan. The concept of a thigh gap lived on very well on the internet, especially on Pro and a Tumblr. And we'll get into it with this article. So we'll talk about this and we'll get into the interview. All right. So this is from Bloomberg, posted just yesterday, January 30th. Gen Z's legging legs trend got the TikTok backlash it deserved. It risks reincarnating millennials' obsession with thigh gaps, but so far the younger generation seems to be getting better advice. No, you're doing it wrong. Your feet need to touch each other. That's what my friend told me in the high school bathroom. It was 2013, and we were staring at ourselves in the mirror, trying to discern whether we had it. It being the tiny sliver of air between the legs that every insecure girl yearned for, a thigh gap. All around the world, millions of girls my age were engaged in a similar toxic exercise. They aspire to be model thin it girl, just like Cara Delevingne. Now, I do have to say, 2013 probably Well, I don't know. I do recall that the thigh gap coming around being like, A, I'm too old for this. I'm like 20 years old. And B, there has never been a reality in which I have existed in where I was aware of my body and a thigh gap also existed for me. Never. Maybe when I was like, 5 years old. And even then I was kind of obsessed with my body. So that's my history with the thigh gap. But of course, not a good concept to be reinforced. Okay. By now, we all know that what a poisonous trend this was. But a decade later, Gen Z and Gen Alpha are at risking of reincarnating it. On TikTok, a number of tweens in the Sephora generation have recently made videos promoting legging legs. Another thing that the youth is giving us that is garbage. Which is exactly as vile as it sounds. Thin legs being the only ones that, quote, look good in leggings. There's even a viral soundbite that goes with it. Nothing in my life is fair, Paris Geller says wistfully in Gilmore Girls. The text on one video reads, when you see a girl with perfect legging legs. Have we not learned our lesson? TikTok didn't exist in 2013, but Tumblr did, and it provided a perfect breeding ground for eating disorders. Acquiescent teens began to glorify Anna, internet code for anorexia. Hashtags like anorexia4, anorexic, and skinny, with little numbers as the letters, proliferated online by skirting around any censoring with its letter and number combinations and put countless adolescents at risk. Although much progress has been made since then, legging legs is a regressive idea that threatens to dismantle the body positive messages of today. Okay. While sure I can agree, that language is a little harsh. Legging legs is a regressive idea, yes, that threatens to dismantle the body positive messages of today. Okay, that's, my argument here is like there is so much out there that it's like we need to be able to exist in a world where there is both. I think that you can be a 13-year-old girl that sees legging legs and it be a regressive, harmful idea, but it doesn't dismantle the body positive messages of today because you turn the next page or you scroll up a little bit and you are following a, feel good about yourself TikTok account and they're saying your legs are perfect. But that's why it's good to have messaging out there that people make fun of like body positive messaging, is because there is always going to be a thigh gap or a legging leg or a bingo arm. There's always going to be something that is upsetting to you and make you feel negative about your body. But I don't think it necessarily can dismantle the good content that is around you, in which it reinforces that you need to be proud of yourself and love the way that you look. I don't know. I digress. Again, just me naturally wanting to be a contrarian. It's one sentence in a whole article that I otherwise agree with. Okay, we're going. Luckily, many TikTokers feel the same way. An outpouring of millennials and older Gen Zers criticizing legging legs are bucking the original trend. Do we understand what we are doing to the younger generation of women? Emily Pearl, a social media consultant and content creator, asked in a video. Do we understand that there are 15-year-old girls that wear leggings every single day that now feel they cannot wear leggings because they don't have legging legs? Some people have smartly tried to explain the trend away. Just a little reminder in case you're on TikTok today and are confused as to what legging legs are, I'm going to clear it up. If you own a pair of leggings and you have some legs, it doesn't matter what size or shape they are. Leggings and legs are legging legs. That's it. Online fitness coach Molly Ava said. Well, I got news for you, Molly Ava. Congratulations. You're an ableist. What about the person that doesn't have legs? Then they really don't have legging legs, no matter how you try to spin that awful trend. Think about that the next time you want to make a little joke. Backlash videos like these, or lashing the backlash videos. It's actually kind of funny. Backlash videos like these are a welcome change from the Tumblr era. The fact that vitriolic responses to legging legs is now louder than the original trend is evidence that TikTok needs to not be a vehicle for toxicity. It can be leveraged as a powerful tool against it. Yeah, both can be true. Of course, the desire to be skinny predates the internet. TV ads and magazines have long promoted unrealistic body image standards, but social media has been a catalyst like no other. For example, teens today do not only compare themselves to stick-thin models on Instagram, they judge their bodies against filtered highlight reels of peers, classmates, and friends they've grown up with. That is very difficult, I will say. The amount of photoshopping and filtering that is happening is like, oof. Because I wonder, like, why don't I post more photos of myself? And it's because I get the photos back from like doing a show and I look like a mangled up, chewed up wad of bubble gum. And I'm like, but I did my makeup and I did my hair. Like, why do I look like that? And it's like, well, I'm also not taking the time to Facetune or color correct or do any of that. So I'm just not putting in the work to post photos of myself on the internet. Although it initially seemed like TikTok was risking a repeat of the abhorrent thigh gap trend in 2010s, widespread retaliation against legging legs is a welcome sign of evolution. The fact that so many women were willing to openly speak out against the dangers of the trend shows that the internet has evolved and learned a lot since my days in high school. Aspiring to unhealthy standards is neither cool nor trendy, which is a positive thing, not just for young women on TikTok, but for society as a whole. So something that I don't think this article mentioned it, is that, yeah, there was a backlash, and maybe I missed it when in reading this, but TikTok actually banned searching the term legging legs in TikTok. So even when I went to go see what is this all about, I tried searching legging legs, and instead of videos popping up, it gave a number to the National Eating Disorder line and don't kill yourself websites, which is great. That's awesome, because I really think that we need to be considerate of putting content out there that gives anyone ideas or tools on how to, harm themselves with eating disorders. Most of how I even learned to have an eating disorder was by going to resources like documentaries on anorexia or, shows depicting what it's like having an eating disorder. And I learned just how to have those disorders because it goes through how to do it. So I think that's great that TikTok said you're not even able to search the term. Okay, so that was that. People, so many millennials just getting triggered by the thigh gap. It's like, okay, well, we're also adults. And it's like, just accept the fact that you don't have a thigh gap and move on with your life. God, there's things like taxes to worry about. Okay, and yeah, so my conversation with my guests. So here's what I love about this podcast, right? What I really love about I Feel Fat Today is when I reach out to these comedians to be my guests, I am not going into it with any understanding or idea that this individual has had a history of eating disorders. And that's not to say that I, maybe haven't heard a joke like Sarah Barnett, for example. She's the perfect example of a comedian that I had heard have a joke about having an eating disorder and thought, well, she's obviously willing to talk about it on stage. She'd probably love to come on a podcast and talk about it. But I would say that that's happened maybe 10% of the time in finding guests for this show. Often I'll ask a comic to do the show, whether it's a male or a female. They will sit on my couch and they will have some sort of history with eating disorder. Not every single person, but a majority of them. And I think it just goes to show how ever present and prevalent eating disorders are, and food hangups, and having history with diets and it being healthy, unhealthy. There's so much to get into, and I do just that with my guest this week. My guest is a stand-up comedian and actress, and very funny. You should check her out on Instagram. All the details will be in the show notes. Please welcome my guest this week, Kate Robards. And we're going.
And My in frame? Am I?
Yes, no, you're good. We're all framed
up.
up. I try to make it as cozy as possible.
It's working.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Working.
I have been so excited to get you on the show. And I feel like people that listen regularly to the podcast will say, "Oh, Kelly, you always say that." But that's literally only because I only have people on that like I really want to talk to.
So now I just am thinking that you say that to everyone.
I really don't say it to everyone, but I mean it to everyone that I say it to.
Honestly, like in this, we're just living the miracle of life over here.
We really are.
We're so lucky.
Yeah, no, truly, we really are. But Kate Robards, your last name is difficult in a way because it's probably everybody calls you Roberts.
Hobards. I got Hobards. I've gotten Chubbards, which is appropriate for this before.
Truly.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's like French or something.
Yeah. So, and where are you from?
I'm from Orange, Texas.
Orange, Texas. Yes. Okay.
I apparently don't know how to say orange right.
Yeah.
Because we like just orange.
Yeah, like it says like multiple syllables.
That's right.
Oh, hello, sir.
Finnegan. Hi.
Yeah, Finn's going to get real cozy with us.
Okay.
I know. I always have to warn everybody. There's animals, whatever.
So it's real different down there.
Yeah. So where in Texas is that?
It is fallen into the Gulf of Mexico. It's on the Texas-Louisiana border, and some people don't even know Texas and Louisiana
border.
They border, and so it's the last like little city that's inhabitable, pretty much on that like where they touch in the Gulf before it starts to dip down. To Mexico. Okay. So I always say it's like just as Cajun as cowboy. You get the mix of both, and like the river in my hometown is the state line between Texas and Louisiana. Okay. So did you like pop over to Louisiana as a child, or? Well, I mean, we'd swim in the river and be like, you throw a rock and you're like, I'm in Louisiana. Now I'm in Louisiana. It's very exciting for children. Gamble over there. So it's like we would, as a kid, it was like, you could go and we wouldn't gamble, but like they had the cheap breakfast. So it would be like $1.99 all you could eat. Yeah. And the like state line, so they have the welcome center. So you could get free community coffee. So we would just go. The bridge going over that town has like these guns on it, like they're crossing like that. I mean they sell liquor 24 hours a day in gas stations. Wine and beer. It's a real different part of the country. Sorry, they're still smoking over there. They're still inside. It's that's kind of awesome. No, it is. It's like a different part of the world. It's the whole like True Detective season 1. That's that region. So Nick Pizzolatto, God, I would love to write for one of your shows. He's from Lake Charles, which is like where I'm from. We didn't have like a Target. We weren't fancy. So we would go to Beaumont, big city Beaumont, which had like a mall, or Lake Charles. So Lake Charles was out of Louisiana. So you could go either way on I-10. But anyway, it's real special. Special. It's real football, church, family, neighbors, helping out, Yeah, so it doesn't sound like it, like, how do I want to ask this? Like, would you say you grew up like... No, I'm kidding. Yeah, like, I was going to say redneck, like middle, poor... So it's so funny that like I thought I was rich because I'm white. And the idea of like what is wealth is so, I think it's changed so much in my lifetime. Where, we know like let's not to like get into it, but like redlining and like all of these things that gave white people like a really solid middle class feeling. And I had a single mom. So dad died. He had some problems. He had some issues. He was alcoholic and stuff. But then she was a single mom raising multiple kids. So like I've always had like we were on the poverty line. And then when I've written about it, people are like, another white trash story. I'm like, no, my mom had a degree. It's just like what happens when, and she owned a home that like was always in various states of disrepair. So she was always like, it's just something else. Like she would love to just be renting. So whenever people are like, oh, the dream is to get a house, I'm like, is it? Like okay, I agree. But also I'm like, it is. Like I oscillate between like buying into it completely, and I think like where I'm from, it's like real working class. So everybody works at DuPont, Chevron, all the chemical plants and refineries. My mom didn't work for one of those, so I would always try to like lie and be like, my parents work at the chemical plant, because I thought that was like classy. Like that was like a highfalutin job because you make good money, right? And so she was like benefits, newspaper editor, which those kind of like
Yeah.
There's only a few of those that are really left.
Yeah.
Then she had a little radio show, but she was a local journalist, and it's just like, it's so funny because I went to graduate school, Flex.
Wow.
But they were like, why are you writing about the 1950s? And I was like, no, this is like the 90s, early aughts.
Yeah.
In rural Texas, and they just like couldn't fathom that existence.
Yeah.
And it felt so antiquated to them. So I feel like my childhood was real backwoods, down home, different, you know?
So where
are you from? Tell me about you. I know the listeners already know, but like.
So I'm from New Jersey.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm from like 45 minutes away.
There's like two types of New Jersey, the suburb, like the close.
I know. So like there's north and south, and I live in central. So I live in the area that people debate even have existed. I would say like my friends and I talk about this, how we're like, you know, I never felt like I was rich, but I always thought that like everyone around me had so much until I got older, and I was like, they had so little, you know, like so many of my friends, not me, because my mom ended up when I was in middle school going and getting her bachelor's degree, but so many of my friends.
In what?
Nursing.
Okay. See, they'll always have a job.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Like I went to school initially for nutrition, because when you are obsessed with food your whole life, you like think like, oh, let me just go to college for nutrition. Until like after the first semester, I was like, I'm gonna have to work in a hospital. Like I fucking hate this. And so like when I actually switched my degree over to fashion when I was a freshman, and it was
still toxic.
I know.
I'm like, way to make it.
I know.
Even worse.
Truly.
And more like body focus.
And now I'm in like entertainment, which is like the worst.
Hopefully we're hitting a pendulum.
I know,
like,
I'm hoping. Well, shows like this, maybe.
Yeah.
So that was devastating to my mom. She was like, I truly don't understand how you're going to have a job and make money.
That you're not going to be a nurse. Yeah.
Yeah. If you're not. Exactly. And like, if I was her, I probably also would have been disappointed, because my whole life I was just like, the idea of having to be in a hospital is like so upsetting to me. Like I can't do it. Like there's something about going into a hospital where like I leave zapped. Like I just can't, like emotionally on an energetic level, handle it. And my mom is like, she's the best. She's my mom, but she's just like, she processes death and grief so differently.
She's seen it all the time.
She's seen it, and she's worked in like the bad parts of the hospital, like
what are those?
like the ER and the
hell no.
ICU, and like, you know, she's okay with blood, like she can handle all that. And then like she comes home, and to relax she like puts on a horror movie, and like I just like, that's what you're doing to decompress. It's like either The Housewives or a horror movie, you know, where people are getting like hacked up.
That's America though. That's
truly like, no, yeah. And guess, you know, shout out to her. Like she really like, you know, paved the way. She
literally saving lives, and we are also doing the same with this podcast.
I know, truly. She ended up eventually going and getting her doctorate. So she like made her like got
doctorate
her
in what?
Doctorate in like nursing effectiveness. She's like the ultimate nurse.
So wait. Is she like a PhD doctorate?
No, it's like a not a clinical doctor, like a
she don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. She can still say Dr. Taylor,
like,
but
usually when people are like she got her doctorate, I don't know, I'm like, I think of them as being like academia.
Yeah, it's like academia.
Yeah. Okay. But she can still save your life. So
yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. I call her with all my ailments.
Who could do both.
Yeah, truly. Well, so growing up, you know, my dad was a truck driver. So it's like he never went to college. He wasn't like a school type. And my mom would just like hold my face
but
at
made
night.
Good money.
He made good money. Well,
he's gone a lot.
He was gone a lot. And so
did he
like,
have one of those trucks you could sleep in?
Yeah. But like I was like really young. Yeah. I was really young, and he
like the radio, you could talk to people.
Yeah.
I was the kid that would be like,
yeah, absolutely. Like trying to get them to beep. But he ended up like not being a truck driver for that long, like when I was a kid, because he was gone all the time.
Because your mom is like, how many siblings do you have?
I have 2 brothers. Yeah.
She's like, get back here.
No, truly.
Now.
And
but in a Jersey accent.
Yeah, totally. And my
you don't have an accent.
People say that in certain words, like it'll come out.
I'm feeling very like professional radio vibes from you. You're like, I mean, Some people like it's very smooth. It makes me want to like I'm gonna start talking.
I mean, I want voiceover work, so someone hire me. As you can hear, I have good cadence. Really Thank you. And then I get pissed off at Joe, and I'm like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Like,
there it is.
But so my mom's whole thing with my dad was you got to have a job that gets us benefits because like I make the money as a nurse, but like I need you to have a job with the state of New Jersey.
Nurses don't get benefits?
They get benefits, but like she knew that like state benefits.
Like state benefits.
Yeah.
Yes.
So like my dad had to work for like the DOT and like all these different like state organizations.
That's the Department of Transportation.
Yeah. Yes. Yep. Only people that live below a certain poverty line know that.
Well, and so your dad did?
So he did. And he actually...
They're rich now.
Well, so growing up, I thought that if I had friends who had parents that were retired, that meant they were rich. Dang. Like, truly.
Wait, it doesn't? Okay.
So, no, I know. But my dad is recently retired because he worked for the DOT. This was like in 2020. No, this was in 2020, September of 2020. You know how like on highways, there'll be like a patch of grass in between like the north and southbound highways.
We call that a median.
A median. Yes, a median. So he's mowing the median.
The in-betweener.
So my dad's on a bigger tractor, but like he's mowing, doing his thing. And a guy was driving too fast, lost control.
What do y'all call it?
I guess a medium.
Okay.
Yeah. And I call it the patch of grass in between two highways.
Right.
This guy was driving, lost control of his car and hit my dad on the tractor. Anybody else would have died, but like Taylor Jean's like you get knocked down, you get back up. So,
you get knocked down,
you get up again. You don't go to the hospital, you just rub some dirt on it.
Same.
And hospitals are expensive. So
but your mom works for one? No, not anymore.
But like wants to avoid them at all costs.
Yeah.
You know,
feel that.
Which I get. So anyways, my dad's retired now because he got into like a horrific accident like that. And like luckily
workman's comp.
But literally
light at the end of the tunnel.
Light at the end of the tunnel is like you get a job like that. And
how long did he work for them?
Oh, a bunch of years. You know, he was never like it wasn't like he worked for them for like 30 something years. It was he worked here for 15 years, worked here for 12 years, you know.
Because sometimes I see these like city like trash man jobs and they make, you know, 6 figures. Yeah. And like, I'm like, how long do I have to do to get benefits forever? You know?
I know.
My boyfriend's parents, like, so he's like very much like, I grew up poor, East New York, and like, and then I went to his parents' house in South Carolina and I was like, oh my God, y'all are like rich. They're retired. Both of his parents were bus drivers. So like in East New York, he's like, I'm poor. And in the South, they get to live in this beautiful new house that they built. And I'm like,
it's very different dollar.
It is bang for your buck.
Yeah.
And so even when my family's like, you're paying that much for a little room in New York.
My mom's like, that's a mortgage. I'm like, I know it's a mortgage, but it's also not a 2024 mortgage, Mom. Like it's your mortgage when you bought our house in 2001. But
in Texas it would be.
In Texas it would be. That's very true. Yeah, everything. But then you'd have to live in Texas. Which is like, there's nothing wrong with living in Texas, but I'm a Jersey girl. Like, I'm not leaving the tri-state area. I'm just not. Which is terrible, but.
Why are you saying it's terrible? You say it with your chest. I'm just like,
I know. Well, it's terrible because I need to broaden my horizons. And I'm not saying, I
bought swampland in my hometown. If you want to go.
No, you didn't.
I'm trying to work on tourism for Orange, Texas.
Wait, why'd you buy swampland in your hometown?
Because great question. Because I make bad investments.
I love it. I wish I had money to make bad investments.
No,
that's amazing.
You don't know how much swampland is in my hometown.
Oh yeah, totally.
So, I just love like the nature, and I'm just like, before the pandemic, I was always looking at land upstate because I'd done some like artist retreats in Woodstock and stuff. And you could get land or like a little place for not a lot of money. So I was like, that's the dream.
Yeah.
Somewhere. I just need to be in nature. I need to be in nature. And somebody on Facebook that I know was selling it. I was like, oh my gosh. But I am trying to hype up eventually like, tourism to rural Texas areas because people will be like, I'm going somewhere crazy. Like, it's so cheap. I'm like, have you ever been to rural Texas?
And it sounds like you had fun as a kid.
I mean, yeah. I survived.
You survived. How many siblings do you have?
Well, I mean, there's probably some we don't know about.
Okay. Dad really had fun.
Papa was a Rolling Stone.
Yeah.
I have 2 brothers and a sister. Mm-hmm. And then 2 of those are half siblings.
Okay.
And then a full brother. And I've also been hit on a median, like, and left for dead, but walked away and was kind of like, don't feel like going to the hospital. That's like, I also am very anti-hospitals. My dad, my mom goes, oh, I found this book. I went home for like Christmas. I was doing shows, and she was like, I found this. It was like a composition book from 6th grade or something. Yeah. And I was like, this is so funny. And it was like my big trip to the city. And it was like, I went to Dallas, or, you know, and it was the day after Christmas, and I was like, it was so fun. All my cousins were there. It was like my big trip to Dallas. And it was like every day I went to the hospital for hours a day to see my dad. He just, at first it's like a school composition book. Those teachers like, watch your spelling and neatness. And I'm like, he's going through chemo again.
Oh my God.
I fed him Ensure through his stomach. And she was like, oh no. And like my spelling was terrible.
Right.
And she was like very clearly just like the pity.
Like you'll get through this.
And but for me, I remember being like, and this is this fun thing that happened.
Right.
And that was like this thing that happened on my trip to Dallas.
Yeah, this wasn't
the
like
end.
Yeah,
but it's like I think all of still like unpacking some of that. Like I got hit by a car on a bike after biking in New York for years, and people were like, "Stay down, ambulance is on its way," and I was just like, you know, my adrenaline's popping, like probably like your dad on the tractor. I pop up and. I called my mom and I was like, oh my God, you're never going to believe what happened. And she goes, I haven't heard you this excited in years. And I was like, I just got hit by a car. She's like, what?
Oh my gosh.
But I'm like, I don't want to go to the doctor. I don't want them to.
No, I actually also, it doesn't sound as traumatic, but I have a getting hit by a car story as well. It's in this neighborhood.
Talk about it.
It was a few years ago. I was walking home from a mic, of course, and it was raining.
You were drinking?
I wasn't drinking.
Are you sober?
No.
Okay.
But I just was like, it was like a mic that was like close enough to walk home from. And I just was walking through the crosswalk, and this person didn't see me and like hit me with their car. And it was like the same thing of just like, you know, he got out to like check on me because obviously he was like, oh my God, I just hit a person. And like my adrenaline was so like through the roof, and I was like so disoriented that I was just like, watch where you're fucking going. And I like got the fuck out of there. Like my first thought was like, I'm going to be in trouble for this. So that's why I was like, I'm not going to the hospital where like I can be questioned about this. Why would I care about that? Like, I was walking across the street. I didn't do anything wrong, you know, but I don't want to go to the hospital.
Also found out it's a no fault state.
Yeah, it is a no fault state.
I found this out later, but I mean, same exact thing happened, but that adrenaline starts going, you taste the bitterness in your throat.
Yeah.
And I kind of love it. I'm like, should I go be in traffic right now? It's like,
oh God.
Did
you have like, I mean, how old were you?
When what?
When you got hit by a car.
Well, so that happened recently. That happened last year when I was hit by a car in New York.
Oh, okay.
But as a kid, I guess as a kid, I was like in college, probably in college. And we were going to like the zoo or something. It was like a big trip to Houston.
Yeah.
And a Wonder Bread truck hit us on, what do you call it? Like some people call it like the access feed or whatever. So we rolled into the median and then rolled onto like the access road.
Oh my God.
We were in her Trailblazer, Chevy Trailblazer, rolling. Yeah, keep rolling. That's showing my age. But a guy, Landon Hebert, was in a truck behind us just randomly and happened to be in a small town, somebody you know, and he's like clearly thinking he just saw somebody die. Me and my little friend Laura. I say little, like she's like I don't know why. She's just my little friend.
Yeah, my tiny little friend.
But we walked away from it, and I remember slow motion seeing like the Trailblazer was rolling. I remember seeing the grass like slow mo as my head is like, you know, I'm buckled in, but I was like, okay, there's the grass in the windshield, and then like rolling, and I had a hematoma, a little hematoma from the elbow. And years later, when I was married to someone who I'm no longer married to, but someone who like had a healthy relationship with doctors and health and stuff, was like, we should go like see like regular and I was like, no, I'm good, you know. And we went to a chiropractor, and they were like, oh yeah, you have trauma-induced scoliosis.
Oh my gosh.
And they were like, were you in any kind of like major accident? And we didn't go. Her car was totaled.
Yeah.
we didn't go because I feel like in where I'm from, it's very litigious. And so this was like a close family friend. So it's almost like, hey, we're going to do the right thing and not go. We don't want, like, I don't want you to think we're going to sue you or your insurance. Yep. So it was like, I feel it was almost very much like, well, now, we don't need to go all that. You look good to me. So-and-so is a nurse. Like, they're going to check you out. It was always like, little butterfly patch, that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so funny.
And like you're being nice to someone. So that, I think that also probably built up my anxiety to doctors where it was always like, now, we don't need all that.
I know. And it's like, I find for myself, like my want to be nice, like will overpower anything else happening.
People pleaser.
Yeah. And like, I referenced my dad's accident. My parents did not sue the kid or his insurance that hit him. Like, it's just like so anti any of that.
And
like,
they totally could have.
Absolutely.
And how big is the community where you're from?
Pretty big. It's a borough.
Yeah.
Borough.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's like that because I'm always like, it's that mentality of like people are your neighbors. They're just kind of doing the best they can.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, yeah. Yeah. Like my older brother, when we were younger, like got bit by the neighbor's dog, and like my parents were annoyed by it, but like never did
not
anything with it.
The dog down.
No.
I know someone who was just talking about they were like sad because it was like I heard somebody talking to somebody else, and I've got problem nosy. I've got case of the nosies.
Hell yeah.
The little nosies. And I was like, well, why if they kept getting into accidents and like hitting people, why weren't they like, can we just pay for this out of pocket? Mm-hmm. Like that was such a big thing where it's like, hey now.
Yeah.
I'm going to take care of you. Let's see what we can do without getting my insurance up because they're going to cut me off. Because he got kicked off of insurance for getting into too many wrecks. And I'm like, is that not a thing? Like everybody's just out here claiming stuff.
I know.
Because that was the first thing that I learned, which is like, let's just keep this off the books. Okay. Yeah. Like, sorry about it. But,
absolutely. It's so funny.
We don't need all that. We don't need to call the cops. We
don't need a police report.
Hey now,
absolutely.
I'm gonna get that femur. I'm just gonna go pick up my femur.
Yeah,
and I'll snap it back in.
Truly,
a little liquid Band-Aid.
Yeah,
and good as new.
And you're good. Yeah, I don't know. I think growing up, it sounds like your whole community was very much like this, but like from your household perspective, like you have a single mom, like.
She's working late. She's
working late.
Putting the paper to bed.
Yeah, like it's hamburger helper for dinner tonight. Like,
oh my God, tuna helper.
I
still fucks with all that. It's
yeah.
Good. I mean, I don't think you could buy it anywhere. Like, I don't think they sell it at Whole Foods.
No.
But like, I'm real big on Chili's, which is just like making, not Chili's the restaurant, but like making chili, which is just kind of like hamburger helper without
the packets
and the macaroni. You
just like, put beans and ground beef
right.
Totally. And so
little
like
onion,
I like growing up, my older brother and I were like horsing around, and he ended up breaking my finger and my pinky, and I like swore up and down that it was broken, and my mom was like, your finger's not broken, like almost like willing it, like manifesting that my finger wasn't broken. She's like, your finger's not broken, you're going to softball practice.
That I could like heal my finger.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure like as a kid, you're like, it's not broken. It's
literally.
Clearly, my mom's a nurse.
Yeah. And so she's like, your finger's not broken, we're going to softball practice, get your glove, let's go.
Did she even try to tape it together?
No, she was just like, it's fine.
Because my family would have at least like
try to like MacGyver it,
and that makes you, it's like the psychosomatic where I would always have broken fingers and they're like taping them together. I'm like, I don't know what this is doing, but I'm healed. Like,
no, totally. Yeah. And like we had definitely had that as well. There was always like a medical supply closet, especially with my mom working at the hospital. Like we had so much stuff.
She stole everything.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
She's gonna be like, don't
like don't tell people that. No, but we ended up going to the hospital because I was in so much pain. I was like, I'm writhing, like something is wrong. So we go to the ER, and
pinky's connected to a lot of tendons.
Yeah. And she was like, literally we're sitting in the waiting room, and she was like, you better fucking hope that finger is broken, because I've worked all goddamn day, and now I'm sitting back in the hospital, this time waiting to get in there. And I remember sitting there, like normally I would be sitting there being like, please be broken.
You broke your own finger. She's like,
no, but I just was so sure. I'd never been in like that pain, and at that point in my life, I was
How
like
old were you?
11 maybe. And I was like, okay. And then the results came back like clean break, and I was like, they see, and she's like, you're lucky, like, because otherwise I would have been so
She's like, because I'd have broken it myself.
No, literally. Which, like, at the time, I thought
break is a good thing too. A clean break is like you can heal.
Oh yeah, it was a summer in a cast. It was fine. I was fine. And like I remember like having such anger towards my mom about that, but now that I'm older,
you didn't take my bone seriously.
Now that I'm older and like I'll have a long day working from home and like something will happen that is like, you know, that'll mess up my night and I'm like, God damn it. Like I cannot imagine having to like have run a house after like working the hard labor that she was working. Like I have so much more grace for my mom as an adult. It's
oh my God.
Crazy.
Oh my God. Especially like I'm like trying to contend with the fact of like maybe never having kids, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just
like literally only our generation that's like thinking about not having kids.
I mean, it's cray, but I'm also like too selfish,
I know, that's exactly how I feel.
Too broke. My mom's like, well, everybody's too. If you start thinking about it like that, I'm like, that's the problem. Like, you know, you gotta
My mom's always like, you will figure it out. We all figured it out. Like,
well, and then I'm like, oh, people get pregnant at like 50.
No, literally, I'm like, I'm 31. Like, people are getting pregnant at 40. Like, I'm like, I'm too young. I'm sorry.
I was reading some book about like Jennifer Aniston and how she was like the motherless, the childless woman and scorned. And I remember thinking she was so old when they were like, and she didn't want to have kids with Brad Pitt. She didn't want to have babies. And she was like, I do want to have babies. And I was like, as a kid, I was like, that bitch is old. Like,
I know, truly.
Old. And then I looked and she was like 33. And they're like, never going to happen. For like,
she's crusted.
So awful. And I only say this because of the whole like parenting thing and money thing and like just parenting yourself and then like giving your parents. I feel so bad for my mother and like what she was dealing with.
Yeah. I have so many jokes about like being obsessed with my weight and like jokes about.
Did you have like a super fit mom or?
So no, I didn't have a super fit mom, but my grandma is also very present in my life. Mm-hmm. And so.
Same. Well, mine's dead now, but she like raised me.
Yeah. So I like always thought of myself as having like two sets of parents. I have my mom and dad, and I have my grandma and grandpa, my dad's parents. I know.
Oh, your dad's parents. Mine was my mom's.
I know. It's my dad's parents.
Did they live nearby?
Yes. My family is always
like going. Yeah. I had aunts and uncles and cousins all down the street. So it was like you could ride your bike or go. Yeah.
Yeah. We were all like in the same county. You know, we were all in Middlesex County, you know. And so
shout out to Middlesex.
my grandmother was.
What'd you call her?
Grandma. Yeah, just grandma. And so I had my dad's mom is Grandma Cook, and my mom's mom she's passed, Grandma Betty. Anyways, sorry, I'm just lamenting on my grandparents now. No, but my grandmother.
We have a favorite? Do we have a favorite?
Oh, Grandma Cook, always. But I have such a fond appreciation for Grandma Betty since she's passed. Truly, like she's like. Once I think about,
you're afraid she's haunting you. She's like Grandma Betty, really fond.
No, but you know why I appreciate her is because she came from Ireland when she was like 18 years old. Finnegan.
It's her grandson.
Yeah.
That's her.
Yeah.
That's Grandma her. Betty came back truly. As Finnegan.
And honestly, I think her death date and his birth date are very close, I think. I don't know. He's from Craigslist, so I don't really know these things.
Grandma Betty been out there.
Yeah. And so I have appreciation for Grandma Betty because she came here from Ireland when she was like 18 years old alone, which is like so many people can't do anything alone. I'm not going to say myself because I can do everything alone. But like,
what would that year have been?
That would have been in 1950 something because my mom was born in 64.
World War II.
Yeah.
The IRA.
Yeah. So she
going crazy.
Yeah.
Before they really went cuckoo.
And like
I mean, not cuckoo. They were like fighting for.
Yeah.
I'm acting like I know Ireland history, and I only not really not.
You know, from like watching Dairy Girls.
Yeah.
Truly.
You could totally be on that show, but like the American cousin, right?
Yeah. Fucking hire me. You know, lots of.
I have such ADD that I can like throw people off of their tracks. I'm like,
no, you're fine. You're fine.
My brain is like, da 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 da.
I know.
Back to what you're saying.
And my brain like wants to connect everything. Oh Well, no, very, very quickly about my grandma Betty. There were like anytime
30 minutes later.
Anytime I would ask her about Ireland, she never spoke about it fondly. She was like, it was a lot of like, depression, a lot like we were poor. Like I had to get out of there to make a life for myself. And like, I don't know, I just really liked how, and I wish I had this appreciation for her when she was around and when I was younger, but you know, we're all dumb. I was like 23
She's here,
when she died.
You can tell her right now.
Yes, grandma, you did great. And so anyways, so my grandma Cookie, she's still around.
Cookie.
Yes.
Cookie.
When she was 18, like 18 and younger, she was so fat. She was like 300 something pounds. And she decided one day she was going to lose.
How does she feel about you putting the weight out there, that number like that?
Well, she doesn't know that this like exists. But, you know, she'll talk about how like she was, you know, that size. Because when she lost the weight, she never went back to it. Like
How did she lose the weight?
So I was going through an old box of things, like old photos, and I found her food journal. And so she wrote down every single thing she ever ate. And she also wrote down every single day she would get on the scale and she would write what her weight was when she was like 17, 18 years old.
So how did she get that big in the first place too?
So,
and what year are we talking?
So it was in 1900s New Jersey.
1900s. Okay. Like, earlier than that, like what, the 50s, 60s, 40s,
yeah,
30s?
so like
I don't know how old. Like my family's older, I feel like.
So my grandfather, he's the oldest person in my family. He was born in 32. So like my grandmother would have been born in 40s. Oh yeah, he's still around. Yeah, they're both around. Grandma and grandpa are still around. Yeah. My dad's parents. And so he actually just recently retired. Like they.
What do you mean recently retired? What was he doing?
He was a private investigator. Yeah.
And my grandmother still works. Needs to be about. Can we be private investigators? I've been wanting to have like we need to do a private investigator show.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
I got the hookup. I used to work in his office actually. Yeah, that was like one of my first jobs, is working in my grandpa's office.
We're going to get back to your mom, but I just started watching Moonlighting with, oh my God, Bruce Willis and Sybil Shepherd, because it was on like Hulu, and it was she's like become as a fashion person who realizes that all her money is gone, and she has this one fake company, but it's not a fake company. It's like a write-off, and it's a detective PI. And that's Bruce Willis. This. I mean, even if you just like the concept is, it's cute. You realize that like Bruce Willis went on to be
Bruce Willis,
the everyman.
Yeah, he's also from New Jersey.
See, there you go. There's a tie-in. So wait, so grandma got big.
Yeah, so grandma was big her whole life,
like in the 40s and 50s.
Yeah, like in
at a time when women weren't like.
Oh no, yeah.
They used to like tar and feather people for being overweight for real.
She has
in America.
Truly, she has stories of like the girls in her class would tell their moms like, "Oh, we're gonna go to the library with Dolores," and then because her name's Dolores, and my grandma would go to the library and they'd be like, "Okay, Dolores, we're gonna go with our boyfriends now," and they would like get in the car and like just like leave her. Like she was always left, like she was always made to feel bad. Literally, like figurative tar and feather. Like it was horrible. Like this. So she has a lot of trauma from that. And now she is this big. She's very tiny. And I've never not known her to be obsessed with her weight. Like she is just obsessed. Like she would make these beautiful meals for us growing up, and she would have the lean cuisine version of that meal at the same dinner table. She's been plagued by it. And again, I have to give her so much grace, because it's like she also is anxiety. Like she used to pass out from her anxiety. She once gave herself like a heart attack from her anxiety.
Jesus.
Like just like white knuckling life, you know? So I thought
that whole generation was on Valium and stuff. Like
no, she'll maybe sometimes take like a half of a little Xanax if it's really getting too bad. Like no.
It's making me want to vape just thinking of it. Like,
truly.
I need a vice.
Yeah. I know. I'm like always like drinking something. I'm always like touching something.
So she just naturally got her weight down through like starvation and
exactly. Yeah. And then like, you know, then she met my grandfather, and I think she kind of became like, she kind of had this thought of like, well, if I gain the weight, I'm going to lose him. You know, because he only knows me as a skinny person. So I think that also played a part in it.
Oh my god.
I know. It's kind of it's.
Did you talk to her about finding that journal?
No, I never talked to her about it. I just found it, and as I was probably a teenager, a young teen when I had found that, and thought like, I'm just going to implement this into my life and do the same thing.
Oh my god, did she have daughters?
No, she only had sons.
Okay, well thank God. Not that they're
I know exactly what you mean.
But like my mom, I have had so many conversations with my mom because she grew up in the 50s, and like, you know, that's, you think of like the Little Housewife in the 50s, and my grandmother went to college, flex, and she said there were two things you could be. She went to Austin College, was from New Orleans, and went to this Presbyterian college in Texas, and she said I could be, and of course I realized like Sandra Day O'Connor, and there were like other people getting to do other things, but my grandmother was like, I could be a nurse or a teacher. So didn't like blood and stuff, so I became a teacher, and she ended up being a librarian, and
also a really good job.
Literally was like a librarian for 40 gazillion years, and everybody in my hometown knows her or knew her. She passed away, but my mom, when my mom was little, oh my god, I'm fully listening to a podcast. When my mom was little, her little sister died, and I didn't know about this till I was like 12 years old, and I found a picture of my grandmother. It's very 1950s. They had like a dog, and then my uncle in his little shorty suit, like Easter Sunday, they're all wearing like a suit out by the azaleas, and there was like this baby on my grandmother's hip, and my mom was in her little, and I was like, who is this? And everyone was kind of like, no, we don't talk about that. And I'm like, wait, there was a whole baby that died? And like, of course, later on, I found out, like, I saw videos, and my mom has always, like, had her own. I mean, I wish that it makes me so, like, want that she could grow up in the Lizzo era where it's like we have body positivity and like, but she was so shamed at such a young age. So basically she said she was so sad about her sister, and then they just like got rid of all the stuff and didn't talk about her. Was kind of like never existed. So they dealt with grief in such a different way. And so then it's like
in the way that like gives you cancer.
The 60s. Well, and also we're from where all the stuff, like the babies were dying of cancer. It's some Erin Brockovich stuff. So like my mom ended up being a reporter. I'm kind of like, oh, is there some kind of link between that? And she said that she was eating cherry pie, because who doesn't love cherry pie? And they would, you know, people in the South, they love to make pie crust with real lard and a little vodka and all that good stuff. And not to like get drunk off of it, you know, but such delicious pie. And she said she would only eat that, and that then the neighbors were like, Margaret likes these pies, and so she's just a little girl. And then come along to the 60s, and she was just so fat according to everyone else. Like she was just, oh my God. And so then they put her on diet pills.
Wow. Yeah.
As like a young teen, little preteen. And then, you know, the diet pills, she's gonna need to be on sleeping pills, right? Because it's like she's literally a little too speed. She's you know, cracked out, and also dealing with this freaking trauma, but like still. And then like in this very 1950s, like she went to school. I have to remind myself, like she graduated high school in the 70s, and it was the first class to have like integration in my hometown, so like crazy. From the whole high school years. And so like she just was always like, I was kind of like the fat band kid who did journalism. And I look at pictures of her, and she's literally like, she's like big chested. And
she's like a size 8.
But she was not even. It's just like, I feel like first of all, women were so tiny back then, and like portion sizes were different. They had different hormones in the food, and then probably just like starvation was like super chic, right?
Heroin.
They were still like famished from the Great Depression, and then like World War II rationing and stuff. You know, I'm also not a historian, but I feel like I know something. And she basically thought she was fat, and like I hate it, because then she became fat, and she was in an abusive relationship with my father. And I've learned that like you can put weight on to protect yourself from things like that. And unfortunately, that bullying, like my family, I always say like I have a mean family, and I'm like born for roast battles, because I'm both like the most sensitive person in the world who will cry at a commercial, and also like I take you roasting me as being like, you love me. Yeah. Because I'd never met her, but Hilda Helmers. But I had a great aunt that they called Aunt Fatty. Oh. And they would say, Aunt Fatty. and someone would be like, her arms are the size of a Christmas ham.
Yeah.
And like, it was not like a funny thing. I also had like an Uncle Woo Woo who they loved because he tried to kill himself, like shot himself in the mouth with a gun, gave himself a lobotomy. So they were like, he's everyone's favorite because he'd just be like, woo, woo, woo.
Oh, so like he
watch
like
cartoons.
was like deficient after that.
Totally. But it's like, that's also like how we deal with like trauma and stuff in the South, and like large Marge, my mom's Margaret. But even she told me recently, it's like, I think it's also that small town mentality of like, oh, we're just picking on you because we love you,
right?
And
it's like, this is how we deal with our trauma.
I knew,
by these weird little terms of endearment.
We joke about it.
We joke on you, yeah.
Yeah, and we're just goofing. We're just having a little fun. Oh, don't be so sensitive. It's just how we like. If we don't like you, we won't say anything to you. And
Truly.
I just, I just wish that. And then of course that like disordered my own view of seeing, your sense of self-worth through someone, and I'm like, oh my gosh, if this is how they treat my mom, and she wasn't like super big. I mean, well, it would oscillate.
Yeah,
but it's like, who cares? How's your heart?
Yeah.
But I grew up in that like thing of my grandmother being like, oh, you're a like, wow, like I remember her just being like, wow, look at you, like, and I'm like, look at me. Yeah. And then I would look at one of my childhood friends who ended up growing up to be a model, like a real model in New York, like not one of those like
Instagram ones, like a real.
She's like a human mannequin model, like a fit model, technical designer.
So cool.
And that was my childhood friend. So she's like 5'8", perfect too. I mean, it's like she's like an engineer meets her mom was a home ec, like had a home ec degree or something from Purdue, and her dad was an engineer. So she's like the fashion version of that.
Got it.
And was a technical designer turned fit model because she would just wear a G-string. I say this to say, growing up, even though I was so tiny, I would look at her legs and her femurs. She's literally like, you can't will yourself into that. It's not like a dancer where you starve yourself.
Yeah.
She's just genetically
different.
Yeah. And I'm like, that was the leg. Like, even to this day, people are like, oh, what does she do? And I'm like, I've known her whole life. Like, unfortunately, I have had so many disorders. Probably just like looking at my thigh. I really remember looking at my thigh next to hers and being like these are muscles, and like, what is?
Yeah.
Like, why?
Yeah.
I should look like that.
Truly.
And the other funny thing is that like she was like, she still has complexes about her face because she was tall and gangly.
Yeah.
And so she's like, I mean, I'm a butterface. I'm like, you're in your 30s and gorgeous and successful. And like,
it just really goes to show that like we never get over it, and it doesn't matter what you look like. And this is like kind of what I try to tell myself when I'm having like a bad body day, where I'm like literally nobody cares about what I look like because everyone's so obsessed with like their gangly body or whatever the case may be. Oh gosh, but it's really it's going back to your mom. She's, it sounds like she's fluctuated with her weight, but she's also like, sounds so lame, but she's so much more than her weight. Like she was a single mother. She was dealing with an abusive relationship, at least with,
like 17 years.
Yeah. Majority.
And hiding it. Yeah. Like you do. It's just like, everything's fine. Like my brother's like acting out, and it was very big on like, I don't know why.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like maybe because you're all getting hit every night.
Yeah. Like we're all just living in this madhouse.
Abusive alcoholism, which is another like bingey type
absolutely,
of thing.
Absolutely. Totally binge.
And even with me, my dad, I'm like, I don't want to be like, and this is like trauma, but it's like my dad would drink and reward me. He's like, because my mom's always like, you drink too much. And he's like, chugging alcohol or beer, whatever, just chilling, and he'll be like, I'll take you, picking us up from basketball or whatever, he's like, I'll take you to Dairy Queen if you don't tell your mom. So I was kind of like, treat, like
Pavlovian.
I'm like,
lying gets me
and
treats.
then also like, I'm not supposed to tell my mom that I got this ice cream.
I
got this ice cream.
I'm
sneaking
now I have a secret
cream. And it was very like all of these little things that totally led to all of the eating disorders I had later on in life. Yeah,
so you eventually ended up dealing with eating disorders? Or disordered eating, whatever.
Whatever you want to call it, yeah. All of that stuff. I mean, I don't know. It's so funny. I don't know why you asked me to do this podcast, but I have an anorexia joke.
Oh.
That I've had people be very disturbed by, including my mother, including other people. And I feel like so many comics, we know that like, it's like, what is it, like tragedy or plus time.
Tragedy plus time
equals
comedy.
Hopefully. And that's like the miracle is that you can eventually laugh. But like, I remember where we're from, it's like you eat a lot of meat, like venison. People are hunting all the time, and like red meat, and like bacon. And my friend's dad, she was Catholic. I went to Catholic school for a little bit, and they had like,
it's a whole nother thing of trauma.
Her mom and dad were divorced. It truly is. Her mom and dad were divorced, but her dad remarried, and they had like 1 million kids. It was like 8, but they had like the 15 passenger van, and it would be full. And she was my best friend because her parents were divorced, and it was like the 3 kids who like didn't necessarily have the most nuclear families. And so I'm like, oh, wonder why we were all besties.
Yeah.
And we both had obese parents. Mm-hmm. And I think there's like this shame because you see how frustrated they are with their self-worth. And then even like, I guess you just pick up, like my dad was also verbally abusive. Mm-hmm. So he would say awful things about her weight, which is like programming me
to feel like that's bad
a certain way, even though my mom was like the most loving person ever, but she was also big on like Little Debbie snacks and treats, and like everything was like a treat.
She's also trying to self-soothe. She's trying to soothe you.
But my friend and I, we made this promise to each other that if we ever became morbidly obese like our parents, we would kill each other.
Wow.
And in my joke, I said, many years later, recently actually, she died of anorexia, so she didn't even need me.
Yeah.
And like, it's one of those things where like I've had people come, I was gonna say, like, as a comic, like this is funny because it's like I'm looking at like how messed up it is.
Yeah. And
then I've had people who are on every different size of the whatever. It's not the Kinsey scale, but like the actual scale, like different size of bodies, and say different things about like why they don't like it or why it's okay. And I'm just like, the thing that's hard about comedy sometimes is that it's obviously very sensitive. You don't want to trigger someone. You don't want to like alienate someone for being like I'm not trying to be like, oh yeah, like I'm pro anorexia and like calling people obese. I'm like trying to call, and I also know like the joke may not fully be there. Like, I've added tags that are like, my mom, because my mom was like, you can't say that. And
I don't think it's like, we're Christians. Can't say that. Okay,
we believe in heaven, and I know Tiffany's an angel, and she's finally happy because angels are weightless, right?
Right.
And it's like,
which is like,
it's such a like cringe joke, but it's also like such a cringe thing that we did, and my friend starved herself to death. And I remember, she was so smart, and oh my God, she's so smart. And
there's also like, I think a lot of what that joke is like there's so much irony in it. Like, you literally, because I know I can relate to having a pact with a friend of like, okay, if we become obese, if we become fat, like we'll kill each other. And then for the end, like that in and of itself is such a loaded statement, a loaded story
to tell. Like you're like 12 years old. And like you're like, that's the worst thing that can happen to me.
That's the worst thing that can happen. And it's like a real, like, there are so many people that have like been in that situation and like at 12 years old have seen that as like a real possibility. And then to turn it on its head to be like, and she died because of anorexia. It's like the irony, it's there. I think it's a good joke.
Well, thank you.
I really do. But I also like those kinds of jokes because I did a show last night that was like some like
booked and busy, y'all. She's booked and busy.
It was my only booking this week.
Well, this podcast though, somebody was like, they're like, what show are you doing? And I'm like, well, it's actually a podcast. You can listen to it. Because they're like, would love to come and see you. I'm like, I would love for you to come and see me too, but I'm not booked in. But this is such a big deal.
It comes out on Friday, so
it's a big deal. It's a really big deal.
Well,
or a small deal. It's not like we don't have a size for it because all positivity keep going. So you have a joke. You're coming back from a show.
Yeah, and so a lot of my act, I don't realize how self-disparaging my act can be, or like how 10 minutes of whatever a 10-minute set I put together really can be, because I did this to a group of people that were all at least minimum 5 years younger than me. So they're all Gen Z, and I'm not a Gen Z hater, but they're not down with the self-disparaging jokes. I tell these jokes to women 35 plus, and I'm killing. Because they all have been in a Weight Watchers meeting. They all want to kill them fucking selves.
In high school. Yeah.
Yeah. No, literally. I'm like, I was 12
all
years old.
Recipes.
My mom got me into therapy. It was a Weight Watchers meeting, you know, like I don't know, like, you know, it's just it's an age
spice
thing.
Cake, you know, the pumpkin spice cake.
The no bake cheesecake.
Literally,
please.
I used to go to these Weight Watchers meetings with my mom's friends, and they'd be like, "Okay, so where I'm from in Texas, everybody gives you like free chips and salsa." They're like, "Okay, so the chips are." You get 10 chips for however many points, but
5 points.
But
whatever
the
salsa
salsa is 0 points.
Oh, forget it.
So they would literally be at this table. So if you just suck the salsa, you can make the chip last. You can just eat like 5 of these salsas. I'm like, your butthole is like blown out, and I don't want to sit at a dinner table with you while you're going and dipping it back in. Like, this is nasty.
No, it's like that's like a version of there's this new eating disorder, not new, but like I read about it recently, called chew and spit, which I've already seen on Intervention. But
and there was a Sex in the City.
Yes, there was a Sex. Yes, there was a Sex in the City episode.
Moved to LA. He's so happy.
Yeah,
he's so healthy.
You look great, and he's like spitting out his food. But that's like a version of chew and spit. But we're just Southern ladies that are just doing this because it's like there's no points in the salsa. It's all like so warped.
But the chew and spit, as far as like eating disorders go, like I feel like that's probably the best because I was bulimic.
Yeah.
And that one, I mean, I want to circle back to my friend though, because she, when she died, people, you know, it's like a small town and rumors and people don't always keep up. And she was, you know, if you have that much trauma, like it's a lot to go to that point. And she'd been in and out. She was going to be a nun at one point. She was going to a Franciscan university. I don't even know how to say it, in Ohio. She was so freaking smart. And like, we won the state science fair in like 7th grade, missed the lice epidemic. She was just so freaking great. And she was like one of these kids, like, I don't want to say I was more mainstream, but I just like had more of a need to fit in than her.
Yeah, totally. She was just naturally cool.
She was naturally cool. Like, she would love in high school, like in this town, she would be like, I want to go shopping. I'm like, can we get somebody to bring us to the mall? Like, can we go? Or like, I got to go to the Beaumont Mall or the Lake Charles Mall. And she's like, no, it's $5 bag day at Salvation Army. And she would find like freaking old band uniforms and like,
so cool.
But like cool in a way that like nobody appreciated. And it was so sad. And she got so skinny. And at that time, it was very big in the ANA, like blog spaces.
Oh, I was literally like, Tumblr pumped to my head immediately, like pro Anna Tumblr.
Was like one of the only people who got to see her stuff and like her poet. She was a beautiful artist, a beautiful singer, a beautiful writer. She was such a creative person, and of course would have to go to these hospitalizations. And I would visit her sometimes in the hospital. And one time when I was in college, I was like always waiting tables at Carrabba's so that I could always like have free food access to like I would bring home pans of lasagna and like just eat a whole bread. I got all the bread for free. And I had done outpatient treatment at that point for some of mine, but I remember visiting her in the hospital and she'd be like, can I have a green tea? She was drinking like green tea matcha lattes before I even now thinking of, she's like a green tea latte with extra this and no sugar. And I remember being like, why are you drinking like a venti? Yeah. And she's like in the hospital and she would tell me about like, oh, I was in this outpatient thing. And so many girls where we're from are nurses because there's all the chemical plants. So all those jobs. Yeah. And she would be like it was always like the cool girl. Fallon was a nurse at one of these hospitals. And she's like, hey, they make us drink Ensure. And I'm like, right back to my dad. Literally. She's like, they make us drink Ensure and they don't have the doors on any of the bathrooms. So you have to shit in front of people. Oh, God. And like, she's like, it's dehumanizing. Yeah. There's no dignity in it. And I'm like, so fucking eat. But I know I also can't tell her that. Yeah. And it was like, it's like I felt like in some ways I was always like, not like guilty for it, but like she would pass me her venison under the table because her family had good meat. Her dad was like an engineer. So they had good meat. And she's like, I don't want this. She would be like a vegan first and would pass it under. And I'm like, I have had different waves and flows of how I'm doing internally that affect that, because that's, you know, kind of how that works. And like simultaneously, you know, like, you're like besties, but like you go on your own path and you're busy with life. Like my whole, like, and now he's talking about me, but like my eating disorder thing came about because of, like, I feel like anorexia is pretty obvious to notice. Yeah. And I was like, so hiding mine with the freshman bloat, like the college bloat.
Absolutely.
But it was really like bulimia and binge eating and bulimia that I feel like so many former athletes, because I was like a cheerleader and like definitely had some disordered eating around that. But then when you're not like playing soccer all the time and doing like competitive,
major life change.
Yeah. And you're like eating and then you're drinking and then you're, and so, it got so comfortable, and I had my go-to binge foods that I still like in a recovery person. I'm like, I can't eat those. Like, I try not to drink when I'm depressed. I try not to just like eat ice cream because I'm like, I know this is so sick, but I'm like, this can come up easily. And
I know. Oh, immediately, like
the chewing out though, my dentist, because it's a small town, like she did, I don't even think she was an orthodontist. Like my mom was like, hey, we got to get Kate some help on her teeth. So they like hooked me up with some fixer upper teethy stuff, some braces, and she'd taken care of my teeth my whole life. Her mother used to babysit me and stuff, and she was like, hey, so are you gonna tell your mom, or like do you need to talk to someone about this? Because the enamel in my teeth, I had so many root canals, and I was so young, and I didn't need it wasn't like, oh, you've just had rot mouth your whole life. It was like, hey, what is going on?
Yeah, this
in this short amount of time.
This is self-inflicted.
And I know women who've had heart arrhythmias and like had to have them displaced, and the whole while people have no idea, and they are so praised.
The answer is so obvious.
They're so praised for how they look, and like even me knowing all of this, like having friends who've gone through this, I have seen people who I haven't seen in a while. I'm like, oh my God, you look amazing.
Yeah.
And one of my friends, she's amazing, Jamila Reddy. She's on like Instagrams and all the things, but she's like a healer and a poet and, you know, a hippy dippy, wonderful woman. But she said, yeah, I've been really depressed. And sometimes when people lose weight, it's not a good thing. And I was just like, she told me this was more than 10 years ago, but I remember being like,
we did not have that vocabulary 10 years ago.
No.
That's like a new fucking thing. Like this decade.
Where we don't compliment someone on, and now we just all assume it's Ozempic.
No, truly. But when you even said that, like, you know, I saw my friend and I was like, oh, you look amazing. Like now my brain is more like trained to be like, oh, I now don't do that anymore. Like I'll say at best, I'll say to someone like, you're looking so healthy. Like, because it's like people that are looking healthy, like have like a glow about them. But just because someone's smaller does not mean that they are doing great. And I can't believe that 10 years ago you had a friend that was able to say, yeah, I've been depressed and that's why I'm looking smaller.
This woman is like a life coach who's not a life coach. Like she like teaches, she's a teacher. I'll say she's a teacher, but she could like fix your life, you know. And
you called her a healer, and I'm like,
healer.
I'm
She's
obsessed
such a
with
healer.
that.
She's such a healer.
I love healing people.
She really though is, and it's like not everybody is called to do that. Like I always feel like I'm so myopic, and like I think part of why I love stand up is that there's always the observational stand-ups, and I'm like very big on like the deeply personal is universal, the deeply personal is political, because like wrapped up in that joke where it's like some people might get really upset at hearing it, and then I'm just like, oh, okay, I haven't done a good enough job like figuring out how to explain it better. That this isn't, because so many in comedy so many times it's like a misdirect just for the joke, but it's like ethically I wouldn't do that. Right. I wouldn't mess it around. And I finally posted the joke, and it wasn't because I thought it was like ready or anything like that, but I'm limiting the word trying. I'm getting out. Your grandma Betty is going off. But I'm like trying to just post clips of it. Not judge it, right? Because
that's the word. That's impede your growth.
It's also changed in stand up, right? Where it's like, absolutely. You weren't going to post a joke until you had sold it or it was on it.
Flushed out.
Yeah, perfect. Because then people might not laugh. And it's like, no, they understand the process a little more. We're so forgiving. We're so understanding. But I shared it, and someone who knew, my friend's name was Tiffany with an I, someone who knew Tiffany and who went to school with me, just wrote like, she would really like this. Oh, and gosh. I remember thinking like her mom follows me on Facebook, and like I don't know if she even watches it, but I'm like this is like, I just know how much she even like to have that sense of humor where she's like, these nurses have to, like, the freaking cool girls in school are watching me shit. Like, I'm like, oh, that sucks. Like, and she wanted like magazines and stuff in the hospital, and like just how much you have to be in pain.
Yeah.
To, just starve yourself to death.
How much you're willing to put yourself into these situations that to any person, to anybody, it's uncomfortable, but you have such a sick brain, really, that you're willing to put up with it. Like, you're like, this addiction, really, because that's really what eating disorders are. Like, I think anorexia is an addiction, and you're addicted to it. You're addicted to being skinny or whatever the case may be. And you are willing, yes, you're going to complain about it, but you're willing to shit in front of people. You're willing to be this uncomfortable because, like you said, you're just not fucking eating. You know, you're not getting better. And it's a very, I think that education is important. But I really struggle with the efficacy of shows like Intervention, or like there is this one like anorexia HBO documentary I watched like in the early 2000s. Because I do find those shows to be not only entertaining but also like good. Like
it's very entertaining to see someone else's eating disorder, and that's why I started a podcast.
Well, because there's relatability,
right.
And I think with a show like Intervention, because like there'd be some episodes where the people are alcoholic, some people would be
destigmatize it,
you're destigmatizing. However, I learned my best tips and tricks from those documentaries and from those docuseries and those shows like Intervention. So I struggle with that because it's like, well, I learned the best foods to throw up for when you're a bulimic from watching Intervention.
And what were they? No, it's like ice cream.
No, it's literally strawberry ice cream. It's like the best. Yeah.
It's so like frothy, foamy.
Yeah.
It's
not painful.
It's really, I mean, it'll still rot your teeth because there's
enzymes
that are like enzymes that are digesting. How are we doing on time?
We're going to have to wrap soon because we have
this comedy has just flown by.
Comedy couple. We have another podcast that's going to be recording here right after.
You crazy kids. You crazy kids.
I'm like, oh, really, man? Because I like to have the apartment for the night. I'm like, we could go for forever.
I do.
Stop.
I do want to talk about really quickly.
Yes,
Did you see the show Physical?
No, I need
Don't
to.
watch it. No,
don't. Okay.
Unless you're in a good headspace.
Okay.
And then I was just like,
I'm a little bit of a masochist with that kind of stuff, though.
Yeah, I like started and I like been putting it off, and then when I started watching it, I couldn't stop because I also love Rose Byrne. But
yeah,
this idea, like, I mean, not every episode, but this idea of like hearing that voice in your head of like, and that's what I've had to combat. And I did like just to wrap this up.
Yeah,
I've had to like not do. There's so many, like I did outpatient treatment. I did all kinds of stuff. I will talk to anyone about this ad nauseum. But like, I still just want to love people. Finn, it's your alarm.
I know. No,
like, time's up. You gotta wrap it up.
He truly has been my alarm at times.
You have the new podcast. The other people are here. You're like,
they must be coming up. I mean, they can wait. It's Joe's stupid whatever.
It's been so fun, Kelly. So fun.
I'm so glad. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. Look at this.
Look at us. Where can people find you?
Dainty. On February 14th, I'm doing like a little couples comedy show.
Oh, amazing!
At the Comedy Shop.
Oh, so fun.
So fun. I'm like, I have this really fun show. When does this come out? Like soon?
It's going to come out on Friday.
Okay, perfect. So on February 7th, it's going to be at Lagos in Times Square. If you like DM me, I'll hook you up. It's going to be really fun. Great comics.
Amazing.
And it's at like a West African spot.
Fun.
And they gave me a tan on the poster. So I'm like feeling a little
hell yeah. I have to find that poster now.
Feeling a little like Katie from the block. You know?
Yeah, I love that. And I'll put all the handles of your stuff on the description, but Instagram, whatever, it's Kate Robards.
All the stuff, yeah.
Amazing. And you were in a movie.
I was in a movie.
Yeah.
I was in a movie. I do anything, like any crazy roles. I think that my like I want to play like all the crazy Southern drill team coaches, cheer coaches, just like the Sarah Paulson, what's her name? Like the
Sarah
scary white women roles.
Yeah. Oh, so fun. Yeah, I'm so down with that.
I realize that like when I think I'm being just like friendly, people are like, she's aggressively terrifying me right now. But I think that's just a Southern thing where it's like, hey, you guys. Like,
I would say like, because I remember the first time we've ever met,
and you were probably like, whoa, like
I didn't know if you were as nice as you were, truly. Like, I didn't know, like, is she this nice girl that I'm talking to right now?
Oh,
like,
no, I would like pop a cap in your ass, but like, no, but
you're lovely.
I didn't realize that that's not, even, you know, like my boyfriend's from East Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And so he's like, do you have to talk to everyone? I'm like, I do.
Yeah.
I grew up in a town where it's like, it's crazy to me when you see someone who you don't recognize. It's like, say hello to them. Like, you've seen their face. And I'm like, I don't really, like, as a kid, you know, it'd be like, hey, wave.
Yeah.
I know everyone. We're all friends here.
Totally.
In this little world.
Oh, my gosh. Well, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for doing this. I think this is so great. We got to love our bodies.
Yes.
Love our bodies.
Love our bodies. And sometimes we're going to hate our bodies. And it's
that's okay too.
We can talk about it. We'll talk about it.
We can hate our bodies. And one day we'll have avatars that'll just be for us.
Like, we're going to reach a level of consciousness where like our bodies aren't even going to matter.
Right.
We're going to be in the cloud. Oh, man. All right, guys. Thank you so much. You're the best. And I'll talk to you next Friday. Bye.